Hey guys, this is Musa, and you're watching InvoNews episode number 13. And today we have our guest, Francois, and he is a CEO and co-founder at Enso Connect. So let's give it a start, and we'll explore more about Enso Connect, and we'll excited to know more about what Enso Connect is and how did it start and how does it begin. So yes, Franco, how
Yeah,
are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are things?
Think things are going pretty well, pretty well. Thank you so much for asking. And it seems very fresh today, and it's a quite sunny day out there.
It is. It's a beautiful day in Toronto, in
Oh,
Canada. So
okay.
it's
All right, fair enough.
the sun's just beaming through the light right now, through the window.
Fair enough, fair enough. Sounds fair enough. So yeah, like if you could explain me a bit more about what NSO Connect is and how it all began and how did you start, and you can let the
Yeah,
viewers know about it.
yeah, absolutely. So Enzo started off actually as a class project about 2 years ago at the University of Toronto. We had to come up with a solution to an entrepreneurial problem, and it had to be robotics focused.
Okay.
Now, I'm not a big fan of robotics, so I went up to my professor and I asked if I could do smart home devices instead, which still fell in the hardware category. Um, and he reluctantly said yes, but he said, you're probably not going to win the $10,000 cash prize at the end of the class. And so when I heard that there was 10 grand to win at the end of a class, I pretty much focused on only that course and decided to put all my eggs in that basket, if you will, to kind of win that prize money. And the first weekend of the class, my best friend calls me up, and this guy calls me up for food, to travel, to go for food and travel. And he calls me up and he says, Francois, you don't know how to ski. You're French and you moved to Canada and you haven't learned how to ski. We should go on a ski trip. So we go on the ski trip very last minute, picks me up on a Friday afternoon to go to Mont Tremblant, about 5-6 hour drive. So we'd arrive around midnight, go skiing on Saturday, Sunday.
Mhm.
And we book an Airbnb on the way. And when we get to the unit, we get an automatic message saying, okay, keys under the doormat, have a nice stay, enjoy your weekend. We get to the unit, the key's frozen under the doormat, 3 centimeters of thick ice. And then as soon as we finally get into the unit, the heating system is per room, and we only get that at the end of the stay. And throughout the stay, we're asking questions about, how do we get pizza delivered at midnight? And how do we, all the classic Gen Z millennial type questions that you would expect. And we don't get any answers. And what happened was 5 days, when we checked out, or more importantly, 5 days after checking out, we get a text message from the host saying we left one of the windows open in the kitchen. The kitchen pipes froze. We owe him $5,000 and he's sending us to small claims court. So that's kind of what sparked the journey of Enzo, brought this problem as the problem I would solve within that entrepreneurial class. We decided to solve the check-in process of hospitality. It evolved very quickly into let's build a full stack property management software that covers every single vertical. And then as we started building out product, testing different messaging, seeing what happens in the industry, we quickly realized there were plenty of softwares in this category already, but also not only was the competition, heavy, it was also a highly fragmented market. A lot of solutions covering a lot of point-based components of the industry. And so we built a very small proof of concept, ended up winning the 10 grand. And then I was starting a master's of entrepreneurship at the University of Cambridge and decided to pursue this on the side to see what would happen. We were raising around in, I think it was March of 2020, just before the pandemic, a few days before. We closed a tiny amount on March 7th. 6 days later, Trump closes the borders and we pretty much lose all the other committed investors. Half of our units on our betas are gone, and we had to go back to the drawing board. So we went back to the drawing board, and what we realized was instead of rebuilding the wheel, instead of rebuilding the property management software with our core focus on the guest experience and so on, why don't we actually just focus on the guest experience? And that's kind of what led, it was a fairly big mind shift in terms of, is this a big enough addressable market? Is this a big enough solution and value proposition for operators? And we quickly realized that it was, and that it's a speed game as well as just a product and execution game. So essentially what Enso Connect is today is what we call a guest experience platform, where we focus on 3 core verticals: communication, which gives us access to all the data as well as the messaging, if you will, from inquiry all the way to checking out and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And in there, we built what we call an experience lab and a boarding pass. The
Okay.
experience lab is the level of customization that you can do to interact with your customers, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
using AI for sentiment analysis, context analysis, or more, or conditional based logic for automations.
Mm-hmm.
And the boarding pass is the guest facing side of the technology, a
Okay.
fairly recent product that we launched in January that allows you to essentially digitize the guest experience from start to
Mm-hmm.
finish.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of
Okay.
the high level story from start to finish, jumping a lot of steps, if anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's amazing to hear about your Enso journey. Like, how did it start? Like, it's quite amazing. So, I just wanted to know a bit more about Enso Connect. Like, has it been launched, or are you in a process of launching it?
Yeah, we've launched it. We're in about 16,000 properties in
Okay.
45 countries.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we've signed the likes of, Angel Host, a large Canadian property manager, different hotels like laundry rooms and so on. So we're kind of in different verticals of the hospitality industry.
Mm-hmm. Understandable. And I'm a bit curious to know, like, why did you choose to create your own platform? Like, although there are other platforms, and meaning, why did you take this major decision at such young age? I mean, you were young, and you take very major decision of creating your own
Yeah,
platform. So, what's
I think it
the
was
young ray behind it? What's
Yeah,
the reason? Yeah.
I've always wanted to start a company, and I've always wanted to be in the entrepreneurial field. I mean, the interest that I had to take this class, even this class in particular, I mean, whether it's my master's of entrepreneurship or the class I'd taken in my undergrad, which was a class where they selected students in the computer science department to
Mm-hmm.
join.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was always an interest. Now, I thought I was going to go be a software engineer for a year or two at Google, and then work my way up for a few years, and then eventually, once I get bored, start something else. This kind of fell on my lap, and I didn't really have a choice. It was really the pandemic, wasn't really the hiring season. I wasn't really looking for a job. I started this, it was working, there was an interest, there was a problem we were solving. And then overall interest in the hospitality space. I mean, I, as per a lot of people, but love to travel, love
Mm,
to discover new
nice.
cultures, new people, new everything.
How
And
many
this
countries you have
this gave me
traveled?
that.
How many countries you have traveled till now?
Probably 20, 25, something like that. So
Okay, and
it's
which one is your
it's
favorite? And want
oh
to go to
man,
place?
that's a it depends on the type of traveling you're looking to do. I think one of my favorite ones was Vietnam,
Okay.
because of the bridge in culture between West and the sorry, like US type world. Like if you ever go to Ho Chi Minh, it's like a mini New York in the middle of a rice field. It's kind of weird.
Okay.
And it's a lot of different cultures, but yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite. I think they're all different in many ways.
Different countries, different specialities.
Yeah, exactly. But the fun part of working in this space is you get to not only sell, but interact with people from all over the world. I mean, we have
Hmm.
clients in Iceland, in France, in the US, in South Africa.
Hmm.
It's completely different approaches, to how they run their business and the guest experience, but also the rules, regulations, and setups that they need to put in place, to run their hospitality business. So
Hmm.
I think that's what's intriguing.
Hmm. All right, great. So whenever you start something, so everyone faces some challenges. So
Yeah.
were there some challenges you faced initially before starting it?
So many. I mean, lack of industry knowledge was the first big one, and there was a lot of things that we learned, in the course of the first 6 months of operations, that I wish we knew day one. A lot of mistakes that we've made along the way, but I think, uh, and also just in general, a pandemic that kind of slapped us in the face, but also gave us a new opportunity and sped up digitization in the hospitality space. I think the key takeaway is that entrepreneurship or building a company is 90% failing.
Hmm.
And it's that 10% of wins, reiterating on that 10% again and again and again until you narrow down that your value proposition, your messaging, your sales funnel process, and everything. So I mean, yes, a lot of challenges, but no challenges we can't overcome.
Yeah, obviously. So I just wanted to know, like, have you hired any team of developers outside, like, for completing or developing this platform?
Yeah, so we actually hired an external team, initially, two engineers, out of Mexico,
Hmm.
and then we started building out the team in house. So I mean, we're a small team, about 10 to 12 people in the company right now, full time. A lot of it is product focused. So a lot of it is engineers. In
Mhm,
fact, we're probably too heavy on the engineering side, but I prefer having a great product, and then it's easier to sell than having just amazing marketing and no product or sustenance behind it. So
mhm,
we have been extremely engineering focused and diversifying our resources across in-house for some of the
mhm,
more management lead devs and so on, and then
mhm,
externally for front end or QA testing or
mhm.
different components of the engineering segments.
Understandable. Interestingly, like I would love to let you know, like you mentioned about the pandemic situation. So, like our company, like InvoZone actually grow around about say 1,000% till now. Like
Yeah,
when the pandemic starts, the company was at like around about say 60, and now we are at 500 plus. So
yeah,
we have grown like from scratch, and then now we are
yeah,
one of the biggest teams over here in Asia. So yeah,
yeah.
we are like generating good business out. And I just wanted to know a bit more about your pain points. Do you still have any kind of pain points?
So many, so
Like,
many different steps that need to be solved on the engineering side, I would say, or the product side. I think one of our bigger pain points is the addressable market that we have because of the integrations
hmm
to different property management software. So
hmm
our product is actually no longer competing. We're not looking to compete at all with the different property management softwares, but rather, hence the name Enso Connect, we look to
hmm
connect all of the different tools in a way that actually makes sense. So we're
hmm
kind of this Zapier like format with a platform play for the industry tech. And I think one of our weaknesses on the product side is the fact that we only have 4 property management softwares to this day,
Okay.
when our competition has on average about 40. So we
hmm
definitely need to speed that up. But we've been so focused on product rather than integrations,
hmm
because we believe in sort of conquering a higher percentage of the market share of each PMS rather than sort
hmm
of spraying and praying across multiple. It's a different approach to solving similar problems. And then, as per most companies in our stage, early stage, we're still working out to figure out product market fit. We
hmm
have good indications that we are achieving a form of product market fit. I mean, the past 2 months, we grew our MRR 180% in May, 56% in June, and continuing to grow since.
hmm
But I think the key winner right now is our boarding pass product. It ties everything that we've been working on in a
hmm
guest-like format that is easy to understand to both the guests and the operators. And
hmm
we're in an industry where we have fairly large ACVs, annual customer values, but with consumer-like behavior in our customers, in the sense they're not necessarily tech savvy.
hmm
They're setting up their organizations and trying to grow them, but they're not yet, they don't have the right tech stack yet to really speed things up. So
hmm
um, we're going through all of these different challenges.
hmm
Onboarding is another challenge, trying to figure out how we can automate different steps, make the experience more seamless.
hmm
Um, but we've got the right team, I think, to solve these.
Yeah, obviously, like you are developing a platform from scratch, and
Yeah,
you must have a right team who can work behind or like who can support the
absolutely,
platform and to get the maximum out of your platform.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So, like what kind of technologies, Enzo utilizes in this platform to streamline all this process, like for his
Yeah.
clients?
So, I
What
mean,
kind
on the management side of things, from a tech perspective, I mean, Jira, Confluence, all of those different tools for product management, roadmap,
of?
but putting in tickets and so on. On the actual tech side of things, our backend's Python, our front end's React. I mean, it's just basic stuff. There's nothing crazy. We are fully serverless, AWS, as well as the AI behind it is actually fairly interesting. So
hmm
having a background in computational linguistics, this is where we started having a bit of fun with my co-founder, who's machine intelligence and engineering science
hmm
student. And so we have 3 different types of AIs actually in our platform. We're adding a 4th one. We have sentiment analysis on the messaging that allows property managers to customize the interactions based on sentiment. We have context analysis, which allows them to understand what are the types of questions people keep asking. You keep getting check-in questions, you keep getting parking, COVID, barbecue questions. What are, so that you can then reiterate on that business. I mean, one of the most interesting ones for me was actually one of the property managers that kept getting pool questions, swimming pool questions, because every single one of his competitors in the area had swimming pools. So he built a
Oh.
swimming pool. And it's simple, but once you start knowing who your customers are, your guests, then you can start bettering your product, which is your home. So that's the sentiment, the context. Then we launched predictive responses, which is effectively using a BERT model. It's a question answering sort of model where you can save responses to the knowledge base and we'll predict the response for you. And now we're working on sort of a combination of GTP3 as well as BERT to essentially generate the text around those messages and have sort of an off-hour staff member, which is actually an AI, to start answering questions for you with your guests and reduce the amount of questions asked, essentially.
All right. Interesting. So I just wanted to know, like, there are, like, you are in the market and there are a lot of other competitors in the market. So what do you think, how Enso is different from your competitors?
So when I look at our competitors, there's two verticals. And the verticals are starting to converge from an industry perspective, but in the technology space, I see some barriers to entry for one of those verticals. So there's hotels and there's vacation rentals. Vacation rentals are always considered alternative accommodations, which is kind of funny because they're not really alternative anymore. They're front and center on many OTAs. If you go on platforms like Kayak or Expedia or whatever, the first tab is no longer flights, it's vacation homes. And that's because they're taking a precedence nowadays. People want to travel in those more so than hotels in some cases. The interesting thing about Enso is we actually started on vacation rentals, which if you look at our competitors, different companies focused on the guest experience, they've all shifted to hotels. So in the hotel side, there's dozens of these companies trying to build what we're doing it differently, focusing on one vertical or another vertical, whether it's communication, check-ins, smart locks, etc. But on the vacation rentals side, we're only two or three. And the reason behind that is because every single vacation rental business is different. Every guest is different. Every owner is different. And so it's very, very hard to build a business, a tech company that streamlines and does one thing and you can sell to one type of audience and it's an easy setup. You get a hotel, it's 30 rooms, you pay per room and you set up all the rooms and it's done. You get a vacation rental company with 30 properties, it's one property here, one property there. This guy actually wants it differently because the owner has a rule and the guests here are usually party guests and it's a complete mess. So I think one of our competitive advantages is not just the fact that we started in the vacation rental segment, it's that we solved a key point, which is a technology piece that is customizable by property, by group of property, by owners, by guests, by satisfaction, by any variable that is a data point accessible from the property management software or the data from the guest that is provided. So for example, the boarding pass, which covers all the steps of the guest journey from verification to check-in to checking up and so on, is this digital guest web app that initially starts with guest verification. And guest verification in hotels is fairly simple. You show up to the hotel, you give your passport, they take it down in case you mess up the room, and then you leave. In vacation rentals, people don't really trust giving their passport number to a random person who has a house. What we've done through the boarding pass is not only showcase the brand of that professional property manager, but also streamline that verification process with different partners in a customizable way. So you can run your verification if it's a direct booking with Superhog and get it guaranteed with a $5 million guarantee. But then if it's a booking.com reservation that's higher fraud risks, you can run that with AutoHost, which does background check, KYC, authority reporting and so on. Or you can say no verification. And so essentially this has allowed us to do is focus really on the guest and create a platform that is customizable for these guests and achieving real personalization rather than automation that is branded as personalization. Sending an automatic reply that just says, we'll get back to you later, like it's a saved email, I'm on vacation, is not really personal. But being able to tailor each of these automations by different parameters is, I think, what will make our product highly competitive. I mean, we're seeing it in the numbers. We're just driving traffic from our competitors over to our platform. So yeah.
Great. So just for the awareness of our audience, could you please let us know, like, what will be the new features and functionalities you'll plan to add in your platform?
Yeah, so we just launched about a week ago V1 of our boarding pass. So we had a first beta in January. This is a fairly new product. We launched a V1, which included a lot of different features. Right now we're in consolidation mode, so just making sure everything works in every different sort of permutation. Some of the new integrations are going to be the focus for the next quarter. So integrating different property management softwares and increasing our addressable market. But in terms of new features that we're looking to develop is enhance our CRM. So using all of this data that we collect and using the messaging system, we're allowing owners and property managers to retarget those guests, as well as streamlining the onboarding process of our customers and the educational component of our customers by better synchronizing the information that we collect. So pre-populating the Wi-Fi passwords, pre-populating the check-in instructions, making it so one-click enable for everything, so that it's not, these property managers having to copy paste everything into different fields again and again and again for 100 properties. That's kind of the core focus for Q3. But I think in terms of new features, there's a lot of new features that I have in mind. I'm on pause by the engineering team for new features right now.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example of something we're looking to develop is a connection to flight awareness.
Okay.
Flight awareness gives you data about the flights being late, early, etc.
Yeah.
And using our experience system, being able to trigger a message to say, if the flight is late, tell the guest, don't worry, we still have you covered. We'll make sure that you check in smoothly. And there's nothing better than having a 5-hour delay on your flight and getting a message from that property manager saying, don't worry about it. I know that your flight's delayed. I got you covered. Versus showing up 5 hours late and being like, am I still going to be able to check in? Can I open the door, et cetera, et cetera. So creating that peace of mind for guests effectively.
Understandable. All right. So I just wanted to know, how many properties do you have right now? Like, just for the audience
16,000.
events, 16,000 properties.
16,000.
Are these in Canada only?
They're all over the world. No, 45 countries. So
all over the world. So mention the major cities or major countries you have the properties in, so that our audience will aware and they might connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're North America, South America, Europe, and even Africa. We're not in Asia yet. I think it's a slightly different market, although we are in New Zealand, Australia as well. So that right now is actually the best season to start selling to the New Zealand and Australian market, because it's their off season since it's the winter. So they're all hibernating down there. But yeah, I mean, it's a global. Our go-to-market.
So why don't you go to UAE, from Dubai or Abu Dhabi?
Looking at that too, opening or speaking with different hotels, vacation rental companies in Dubai right now as well. We're not location focused, we're technology focused. So it doesn't matter where the property manager is. Our whole platform is multilingual. You can customize the check-in instructions in different languages. Everything is I mean, the core platform itself is in English, obviously, but it's all customizable. It's really dependent on the systems that you use, and can we defragment all of those systems. That's the key focus.
Understandable. So, that's the interesting question I wanted to ask you. You are pretty much young, and most founders I meet in the hospitality industry are young. So, could you please tell me a bit more about this generational shift in this industry?
Huge. It's happening, and it's happening so quick that the older generation isn't even seeing it. And I think that's the best part for me, is they still think we're the new kids on the block, and it's not like to be, we're taken for granted to a certain extent. But I think our customers, once they start using it, realize the power of what we're doing and what we're building. I mean, I think my best feedback is we have a competitive company that's really good at marketing. That markets the hell out of different features. I mean, they market all sorts of features that they actually don't have. And so a lot of customers move to us because we're not great at marketing, but we have all those features and they work, and they two-way synchronize. And we made them in a way where it's not like, let's say this, you create a digital check-in platform, but you still have to ask the property manager to manually put in the emails of the guests every time they check in. It's not really automation for the check-in process if every time there's a check-in I have to do a manual action. So we're trying to take it to the next level of what is the full level of automation and personalization that we can get to with AI, with new technologies and so on. And then when you look at the generational shift of our customers and our customers' customers, it is happening as we speak. A lot of property managers who are 50, 60, 65 years old have passed on their business to their kids who are 25, 30. And they're not looking to fill in spreadsheets and write things on notepads and go in person to open doors, provide physical keys and so on. And then if you look at the customer, the guests,
Yeah.
they're used to digital check-in with airports, with
Yeah.
cruise ships, with pretty much everything is online now. I mean, you order your
Yeah.
food, you show up to the coffee shop, you can get a coffee online and show up to the door and just grab it, right? So there's a generational shift that has led to sort of an enhancement or acceleration of a digital shift in different industries. And in the hospitality space specifically, I think when you look at hotels and you look at vacation rentals have always had a lot of new technology coming out because it's a new industry. It's hot on the market. It's got a lot of money. Hotels have been slower at adopting technology because it's cumbersome, it's slow, it's difficult to set up. You have to educate your staff and so on. What's happened over the pandemic is there's no more staff. So you need something to replace that staff or reallocate the staff towards different verticals. And that's where we're seeing hotels adopt more and more technology, and short-term rentals obviously as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the future ahead. And I think in the next 4 to 5 years, I expect everyone to check in digitally to any vacation accommodation, hotel, or hospitality accommodation in general.
Amazing. Sounds interesting. So, just to wrap it up, and I just wanted to know a bit more about what are the latest technology trends in the hospitality industry, and what developments do you think are responsible for these technology trends?
I think it's the shift and focus on guest experience, and I say this obviously quite selfishly, being a guest experience platform. But I mean, the competition is getting more cutthroat, and there's more and more of us focusing on point-based solution of this space. And I think it just has to do with how competitive this industry is as it's becoming more and more professional. 10 years ago, it was about a guy renting an airbed in his room, and it didn't really matter if the guy next door was also renting an airbed in his room. But now we're talking about a company that is managing all the airbeds in the rooms of a specific city, competing with another company that's managing different airbeds. And I'm joking when I say airbeds because of Airbnb, but a type of accommodation. And what we're seeing from those is they're differentiating themselves through their operationals infrastructure in terms of how they manage things and how much money they can make, but also in how they're able to service the guests. And so this has led to verification companies, insurance companies, check-in companies, smart lock companies, guidebook companies, all sorts of verticals that cover the guest experience. And what we're doing is just bringing that all into one system, so that you don't have, on average, 7 different softwares to run the guest experience. It's just one, and it's interconnected. So yeah.
Okay. Understandable. So Francois, I'm pretty excited to having a conversation with you, and it's a pleasure to have you over on our podcast, and would love
Appreciate
to
it.
having another call, another podcast with you, and soon we'll see what developments are happening and what are the features and how Enso Connect will be moving in the next 5 years or so. Okay.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much
Absolutely.
for your time, and have a nice and lovely day.
Appreciate it. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.